All right. Hey there. Welcome to the Money Club, everyone. My name is Lisa Duke, and I am here today with Deanna Broaddus. Deanna is a middle-aged woman who got sober from drug addiction and alcoholism in 2010 and returned to her faith in Christ. On her recovery journey, Deanna uncovered a lot of wounds, healed many relationships, forgave, learned to accept forgiveness, and cleaned up a lot of wreckage, which includes financial stuff. You knew there had to be money tie-in, right? In the process, Deanna lost a house to foreclosure, but with perseverance, she turned things around. At the end of 2017, Deanna made her final payment to pay off her student loans. Yay! So it is possible. And she became debt-free for the first time in 23 years. All in all, Deanna paid off $47,736 in credit card debt, a car note, medical debt, and student loans. Today, Deanna has a thriving career, healthy relationships, and volunteers with women in recovery seeking similar victories. So, welcome, Deanna. Thank you for being
Hi,
here.
welcome. Thank you for having me.
Well, tell us a little bit about, if you don't mind, what was sort of the right? Because it sounds like you were kind of in this downward spiral, drinking, drugs, all kinds of stuff. What was the moment that made you say, I've got to make a change?
Yeah.
Because you could have kept going, right?
Yeah, I could have. I'm not sure for how long, but
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, and so I was in my mid 30s when I actually hit my bottom and got sober, and at that point. But just to go back up a little bit, I've always had a addictive personality. So in high school, I drank a lot, and then I kind of experimented with drugs. And what I've discovered now in my adult life is I had certain wounds that kind of led me to be that way. And that only came about through the recovery work that I've done after I've gotten sober. But so anyway, I had this propensity to kind of become addicted to things because I was looking for fulfillment outside of myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I waxed and waned through the years, but in my 30s, I got into a relationship with a man who was also dealing drugs, and my life really spiraled down. And so I had always wanted to appear like a normal member of society. And so not a lot of people knew that I had, drinking or drug problems, or I could kind of contain it. But at this point now I have access to drugs a little bit more readily, and the relationships becoming abusive, and I really become addicted to things 24/7. So I needed something to wake up, something to keep going throughout the day, and then something to get myself to sleep. And so that is a vicious cycle that you can only continue for so long. And now the relationship got verbally abusive, and so I think I just got to that breaking point where I'd have these moments of clarity and realize this is not the life that I planned for, not the life I wanted. And really, in the end, one night I came home after very heavy drug use, and kind of had a vision. I mean, not kind of, I did. I had a vision where I saw myself rocking in an insane asylum in the corner of a room, and I realized, okay, that's I think this is where I'm headed if I keep going down this road. And then and then I saw a black room, just a complete blackness. And for me, that represented death. And, I was so low and so desperate that I thought, okay, this isn't, I can take my life. This is an option. And then I saw like a glimmer of light. And for me, it represented, the faith that I used to have, a faith in Christ. And I got down on my knees and I prayed for the first time in many years. And just that led to a series of events. So I ultimately threw out my drugs. A week later, I left the relationship and never looked back. That was probably the strongest cord to cut. And then I started telling people the truth and asked for help. And so, yeah, it was just, I felt like at the point of desperation where I was physically bankrupt, I was mentally bankrupt, I was emotionally bankrupt, spiritually bankrupt, and pretty much financially bankrupt. So I had nothing else left in the tank. And I fortunately, I took the wise choice of entering a path to recovery versus, taking my life.
Wow. Well, and you bring up a really important point that I think doesn't really get talked about in the traditional financial services world, which is sort of what is driving us to get into really bad debt, into financial problems in the first place. And for, I think, almost all of us, it's that I actually had a really interesting conversation like an hour or two ago with somebody who was saying that a lot of people that overspend also overeat, because it's the same thing driving all of those behaviors. And the same with alcohol, the same with drugs. There's something,
Yeah.
some kind of unhappiness that you're trying to fix. And so you're looking for something outside of yourself to fix that unhappiness. And the catch is those things do work temporarily, but it takes more and more and more to get the same rush, whether it's, a bigger and bigger credit card shopping trip, or, more and more drugs. It takes more to get the hit, and the negative consequences are so big, right? Like we'd probably all be on drugs if you would just like wake up the next day and feel fine, right?
Yeah.
Like, why not?
No hangover, right?
Yeah, right. Like we would all max out our credit cards if we didn't have the guilt and the shame and all those years of making payments and not getting anywhere. So it's really that recovery journey, whether it's from overspending, over drinking, overeating, over whatevering. It's, I think, really about being honest about what the pain is and addressing that. So do you, this is a little off topic, but do you have any quick tips for somebody that's in that place that's like, things are really rough? How do you do that? Is it therapy? Is it counseling? Is it probably a lot of praying in your case? Like, how do you, what are some of the tools that you use that you found most helpful?
I mean, you're hitting on the root issue, which I love. So in the women, and I'm in a recovery program that allows people that are in recovery from anything. It could be overeating, drinking, drugging, divorce, anger. So we all say it doesn't matter what, pick your poison. It's what is underneath it all that's causing you to go to these substances outside yourself. And because once you get to the root, then, these symptoms will kind of go away and you can find your fulfillment in deeper things. So some quick tips. Yes, therapy can be helpful, and it depends on how deep the wounds go, and maybe what somebody has to uncover in their past. So I always recommend, especially if they're deep wounds, to, consider doing it in therapy or a recovery program. There's so many out there. On my website too, I have a recovery resources of all the anonymous programs that are free. And at least then you can get an accountability partner to walk through with you on that journey. But, if the wounds aren't super deep, but you're still wondering why you're going to these sources, maybe just taking a quick inventory of your past and kind of identifying, do you have resentments from your past, or are there any relationships that you felt you developed some unhealthy coping skills as a result of, just kind of looking through, because relationships are such a key in our life, and whether it's the ones that affected us in our formative life, our formative years, parents, grandparents, siblings, what kind of coping skills did we develop as a result of those? And are there any, voids that we still feel, and really identifying them and learning how to find some healthier coping skills going forward? Or was there a lack, in your home growing up? Maybe there was a lack of food, or just not the ability to get the things that you need and you want. So sometimes people can develop almost like a hoarding sense. I need everything. Now that I'm working, I'm going to spend all the money that I can because I didn't have the ability to do that. So just identifying that, I think, is the starting point to learn to curtail that behavior.
It makes sense. And I'll throw in a little self-promotion coaching. I'm also a theta healing practitioner. And the way I practice both of those, it's really about helping people get the awareness as to what the root cause, what the limiting belief is. And it can be a lot of different things. It can be one instance of something that happened and you made up a whole lot of things, right? Because there's what happened and then there's what we made it mean. So, for the coaching and the theta healing, like you'll come up with a lot of things that maybe that one instance that you made mean about you. And it's really addressing that and realizing like, okay, this thing happened, but it didn't happen necessarily because I was bad or broken or wrong, right? It's because of whoever that perpetrator was, right? So it's really fascinating stuff. So you got started on your recovery, and the debt payoff kind of come later, or was that a part of sort of the making amends?
That, so fortunately, there is a financial amends, but I didn't
Mhm.
really owe specific people, although I did owe
Mm,
creditors, and
mhm,
I felt like I owed it to myself to want to
mm,
improve my finances and
mm,
not have that feeling of paycheck to paycheck. But
mhm,
it didn't occur right away. So I kind of took time to dug deep and healed the relationships and built a good foundation in my faith. And then about 3, 4 years in, I became ready. I thought, well, I have this sense of freedom and peace about my life now, but I didn't have it in regards to my finances. So
mhm,
then
mhm.
I knew, okay, this is an area it's time to focus on. And yeah, that was about 2014 for me. So I got sober in 2010, 2014. I met with a woman that taught me how to get on a budget and taught me a debt payoff plan. And from there, it was a slow process. And in the process, I lost a home to foreclosure,
Mm,
which was a setback because I'd already started working on my debt. And I felt like, oh, it kicked me back a little bit. But instead of letting it take me down, I decided to use it to propel myself forward as a stronger motivation to really clean up the rest of my debt. And just started reaching out and asking for help, similar to what I did in recovery.
mhm.
There's a plethora of options out there. And today's society, we could just Google it,
Yeah,
too.
yeah, absolutely. So 2014 was really kind of the start. And then about how long did it take you from 2014 when you said, okay, I've cleaned up a
Yeah.
lot, let's look at the money? How long did it take you from 2014 until you paid off the debt? Do you have a sense of that?
Yeah, so that was in 2014, I believe, the summer, and then I paid everything off December 29th of 2017. So not too long after, I suppose. Is that about 3.5 years? Yeah.
Yeah, that's not
Yeah.
bad. Three and
Mhm.
a half years for probably what, about 20 years worth of making debt?
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
That's not that bad. I'm sure the 3.5 years was rough, but when you consider like how long you spent making debt, that's a pretty quick turnaround. So, and you
Yeah.
did not stop there. You didn't say, well, I've paid off all my debt. Let me now spend every penny I make. You set some additional goals. So, do you
Yeah.
have a sense of, because I think a lot of people, like if they've gone through Dave Ramsey's program, they pay off the debt. And then this was our experience. We paid off the debt and then we were kind of tired.
Mhm.
So we took a little rest. And I think a lot of people stop right there. So did you just go straight through or did you have a little rest? How did that work?
It's interesting. I went straight through and I feel like I've had more of a rest now, but I think the reason I went straight through was in the process near the end of my debt payoff, I had discovered this FIRE community, which stands for Financial Independence Retire Early. And I was just blown away by the concept and what people were doing, just being a little bit more um, intentional with their spending
Mm-hmm.
habits and their saving habits and their investing, and able to truncate the amount of time to which they could actually retire, and doing it a lot earlier than the traditional retirement age. So as soon as I paid off that debt, I thought, all right, I've already got the habits built. I've learned to become frugal.
Mm-hmm.
I've tightened my budget. And now I had been living with my parents for the last year and a half of it. So that did change. I moved out. So I did have to increase my budget a little
Mm-hmm.
bit, but I just transitioned right in, and I thought, well, I'm not really used to seeing this money anyways. It's used to going to my debt. So now I'm going to put it towards investments. And that became motivating because I saw the account start to grow, and it was exciting it was much, the debt payoff was fulfilling, and but it's challenging, it's perseverance, and you're paying for things of the past, so you don't
Yes.
really get the
Mm-hmm.
fruits
Mm-hmm.
too much until you pay it all off. And then but saving for the future is fun because you start to see the accounts grow, and that it's going to buy you freedom and other things a little bit later.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have kind of a plan about how many years you think you have to millionaire status? Have you mapped that
Yeah.
out?
Well, yeah. And
Just to go for a big goal right off, right?
right. Yes. So I think, yes, I have mapped it out. And even to retire, I don't necessarily need to be a millionaire, but
Mhm.
pretty close.
Okay.
And so for me, that can come right around, if I keep going at the pace I'm going, 59 and a half to 60. So, 5 5 years earlier than normal retirement, which I think is not too bad for, somebody who just discovered this, right? I was just turning 46 when I was full speed investing and saving. So
Yeah. Yeah. So, you start at 46, you're done at 59. That's 13 years. Again, not that bad to, be able to take 13 years and not have to work again. And you
yeah.
might choose to continue to work, but it's awfully nice to be in that position of work being something you choose to do instead of something you have to do.
Yeah.
And, especially I see a lot of people that, they get, because you and I are roughly the same age. I was born in 74. And I see a lot of people our age that, maybe they didn't get the message, because we talked about this a little before we started recording. My parents did not talk to me about money, and they definitely did not talk about investing. And I was a little mad at them for a while.
Yeah.
Like, why did they not teach us this stuff? And then I sort of realized I'm not sure they ever learned it. I'm not sure they ever needed to. They were very fortunate. My dad was one of the last guys out of corporate America with a pension. My mom was one of the last teachers in Florida to get a pension. So they each have a pension. They each are getting Social Security. Now, they always did live below their means and save, and I think they have some stuff in some mutual funds, some kind of investments. But I think they never really taught us about it because they never really needed to learn it. And I know you were saying your situation was a little different, but also a little similar. So can you talk a little bit about what your experience was, how much education you got about investing growing up?
Yeah, I very little. And I, like you said, I don't know if it's generational. Now, my mom did get a pension, but my dad didn't. And so they were investing, but not on their own. They were hiring a financial planner. So they've even talked to me about using their planner. And I said, oh, I've done the research. I'm just going to keep doing it my way. But I was thinking why they never talked to us, the children, about how to invest and the importance of it. It's probably because they didn't really know how. They just thought, okay, they encouraged us to go to college, become professionals and work. And maybe, then you hire a financial planner and they're going to help invest and plan for your future. So there's no reason to teach us. And, yeah. And I think I've surprised them. They follow my blog and they're like, wow, you've really done the research and and I said, yeah, it's not too hard. And I want to know where, my money is going rather than just giving it to somebody who's making the decisions for me. But,
yeah. And it kind of goes back to, they may not have taught you because they didn't really know, right? The
Yeah.
way they got ready for retirement was they found a guy.
Yeah.
And again, if
or girl, they have a gal, actually.
A gal. Oh, good for
I
them.
know.
Yay. We need more women in financial services, more diversity by far. But it's not necessarily wrong. So if you're watching this and you've got a guy or a gal, you're not doing it necessarily wrong. But I do think even if you're going to hire somebody to handle it for you, it is worthwhile studying this, learning about it, so that you can follow the conversation, you understand what they're doing on your behalf, and also so that you know what questions to ask. Because if you're just like, la, 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 just make me rich, I trust you, good luck, you can't possibly be making, intelligent decisions and asking the right questions if you don't know anything about it as well. So what were some of your favorite resources as you were learning about investing?
Yeah, great question, because you're right. And there's nothing wrong with hiring an advisor, but just knowing what to ask and understanding what they're investing in is key. So the best resources, the Choose FI podcast was a huge influence on my life when I first started getting into investing. And then one of my all-time favorite books is The Simple Path to Wealth by J.L. Collins. It teaches you, it walks you through how to invest in mutual funds. What's the difference between target date retirement funds versus, making your own asset allocations, and just breaking down all those terminology that might sound like Greek to you. And he does it in a way that is entertaining. I referred a friend to the book and she said, this is the first nonfiction book about money that I've read and actually enjoyed.
Yeah.
And so, because it could be a dry topic. So that I learned so much from that book, and I go back and revisit it. It's just very simple to understand.
It's like having a fun, rich uncle.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. Because he just kind of makes it natural and conversational and approachable, but he knows what he's talking about. He's done it himself. He's handled his own investments. So yeah, I've heard some interviews with him, and he seems like just a genuine good guy. So yeah. So, all right. Anything else that you want to be sure to leave our viewers with in terms of inspiration, even either getting out of debt or learning about investing? Any parting tips?
Yeah. So I would say in regards to debt, there are a lot of different debt plans. And, I started with Dave Ramsey, and then, the debt snowball, and then there's the debt avalanche, and there's other things out there. And there's none of them are wrong or right. It's whatever's going to work for you. And if you're overwhelmed, just pick one and start, because I guarantee when you start, you'll start to tweak it to what works right for you. And that's fine. And in regards to investing, and the other resource I didn't mention, which is how Lisa and I met, there are money camps out there. Who would have thought? Like Camp Fi is where we met. It's a fun money camp of people coming together and just talking about money, but also playing games and having fun. And there's different speakers that will actually teach you things about investing. So that, consider doing that for a weekend if you're really wanting to turn your life around and learn more about this. And certainly, I would love to have people come to my website. It's called recoveringwomenwealth.com, and it is geared towards women in recovery, but I have other people that read it and follow it and get useful information on there. I write about anything from, the deep soul searching types of recovery work that I've done. And sometimes those are my favorite things to write about, because wealth is not just about money. It's also about mental health and peace and fulfillment and purpose. And then I do write about financial tips in regards to debt payoff and just budgeting and investing. So I would love to have people visit my website and reach out. You can subscribe right there on the website, and you can follow me on social media. There's all the links right there on the site.
All right, fantastic. And if you have enjoyed this video, you can click on subscribe and click the bell to be notified when I have a new video come out. They're usually every Wednesday. We've got lots of money information and money inspiration. You can also join me on Facebook if you are a Facebook person. Most of us are. And the shortcut to get to my Facebook group is lisaduke.net/Money Club. Or if you're already on Facebook, you can just search for Money Club with Lisa Duke. Make sure you find the one that I'm in, because there's some kind of scammy stuff out there called Money Club. But Money Club with Lisa Duke will get you to the right place. And I share videos like this, blog posts, questions, answers, and there's a whole community of folks there, not just folks getting out of debt, learning about retirement, but there's other financial coaches. So there's always somebody to help out if you have a question. So thank you, Deanna, so much for being here. And we will see all of y'all on the next edition. Bye.